Well, hello, that's me again. Today is September 5th, 2025. It is Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. And what you see in the beginning is actually the city of Lutsk. It's in western Ukraine. And this is just one of the cities where the military objects, so to speak, and locations and installations have been attacked by Russians. And as have been stated many times before, Russians can send 600 geraniums a day if need be. And that's what is happening as we speak, together with all kinds of other cruise missiles and things of this nature, and ballistic missiles such as Iskander-M, which has the range of in excess of 1,000 kilometers. So, and as you can see yourself, there is not really any work by any kind of the missile air defense, because they don't have any. It has been completely suppressed, it's been annihilated. And the only thing they have left, after collecting pretty much everything they could from not just the former Warsaw Pact or Warsaw Treaty countries, but also from NATO countries. I mean, the old legacy NATO countries such as Germany, such as United States, such as United Kingdom, and all kinds of air defense systems, which have been also destroyed. All those Patriots, PAC-3, IRIS-Ts, SMPTs, and things of this nature. They are not that good at defending against the real serious military, such as Russian one. I would dare to say now, go out on a limb here and state that yeah, it's the best military in the world right now, and by far. But this is what is happening, as the only thing you can see is the AAA, anti-aircraft artillery working there. That tells you everything you need to know. So it's not good, even if when it is radar controlled, you may get lucky, obviously, trying to, track and detect, track and develop firing solution for the geraniums, which are, well, essentially the composite materials, carbon fiber and all kinds of things like that, fiberglass things, so which are, well, more difficult to detect, not to speak about the stealthy, all kinds of nasty missiles such as 3M14 calibers or X, which is 101, and things of this nature. So yeah, it's not good. So you can get lucky shooting 1-2 geraniums, but you're not gonna be lucky shooting with your AAA any kind of the cruise missiles. And there are plenty of those in Russian arsenal. In fact, way more than any kind of the combined whatever the output of NATO can even compare. And Russians produce it on the order of magnitude more. I've been on this before. So, but we will start. We'll start obviously with this. So, Mr. Putin yesterday speaking on the Far Eastern Economic Forum, which, by the way, is huge event. I mean, and as always, it will be missed, as my good friend and Irina Alksnis, the chief editor of the RIA News, says that they will simply bypass it. The media will not even notice the huge events which are happening there. In economic sense, they will be all basically hanging on to also important Vladimir Putin stated about special military operation and the fate of Ukraine and of NATO. And this is about all this supposedly invitation, which wasn't really invitation, but Vladimir Putin stated if he is ready to Zelensky, sure, you come to Moscow. So, but here is what stated by Vladimir Putin, well, how to, verbatim. So, and look at this. This is directly from RIA News. And this is directly from the mouth of the man himself. It will be almost impossible to agree on key issues with the Ukrainian side, Russian President Vladimir Putin said. It will be almost impossible if there is a political, even if there is a political will. The head of state said at the plenary session of the, well, it's not World Economic Forum. It's actually, yeah, it's funny. It's actually Far Eastern. It should be V. But it doesn't matter. So, and, I mean, cannot get any clearer than that, right? Absolutely. And this is why the quote-unquote invitation, because it's daring, not invitation, because everybody understands Zelensky will never do this, because he will be killed. He will be killed either by British or by his Nazi curators in Kiev. So, and then comes this thing. And Mr. Putin states this. Russia will consider any troops in Ukraine legitimate targets for not defeat. It's поражение means, well, it's sort of defeat, but it's actually for being targets for the strike. That means, yeah, Russians will simply kill those troops. And so, again, this created a hysteria in mass media, and I have to applaud RT in this particular case, as much as I kind of, very standoffish about them for the most part. They did a good job, because obviously they started to explain what actually Putin said, and they correctly stated that what he said was nothing new. There will be no, actually, any kind of the foreign troops, because they will be killed, all of them. Doesn't matter. And so what Putin actually said, and they said that he stated things which have been stated many times before. Absolutely. Putin remarks drew a clear line between two situations. And he says, if some troops appear there in Ukraine, especially now during military operations, we proceed from the fact that this will be legitimate targets for destruction. And he talks about the so-called peacekeepers. And if decisions are reached that lead to peace, to long-term peace, then I simply do not see any sense in their presence on the territory of Ukraine. Full stop. Absolutely. There will be no peacekeeper. There will be no need for peacekeepers, because essentially it either, as have been stated also by Vladimir Putin and all top Russian officials, if they do not want to go and do it diplomatically, it will be achieved by military means, one way or another, as already have been stated by Putin himself yesterday and the Far Eastern Economic Forum, that, well, there could be no really any kind of the agreement between us and those people. Simple as that. So that's the explanation. And this is the thing which have been stated by many of us, me, Daniel Davis, Doug McGregor, Scott Ritter, Larry Johnson, Alistair Crook, and on, Pepe Escobar, and on, and on, and on. There are a bunch of people who have been observers of this whole situation for years now, who absolutely stated clearly the regime which exists now in Kiev will be gone. It will be annihilated. And after that, whatever is happening, well, you remember also the hysteria with the map which was behind the back of Mr. Valery Gerasimov, which shows, of course, I spoke about it last time, so you can see yourself, and there's the hysteria about this map now. But yes, you don't have to go and basically take it immediately by military means. Can you? Yeah, Russia can do that, absolutely. But why would Russians waste the lives of their soldiers for achieving some kind of the, well, important, but I mean, yeah, why do it this way when you can do it absolutely in a political sense, that you wait for the front to collapse while continuing to actually grinding the whatever is left of the armed forces of Ukraine. And now Mr. Putin himself speaks about it. Everybody speaks about it, that the reserves are actually almost exhausted. And what Russians do, they what Mr. Putin stated again, they conduct offensive operations on pretty much along the whole length of the front. And that means what? Stretching whatever little is left there, and what they do, whatever the armed forces of Ukraine, which is essentially the NATO, they just basically moving whatever is left along the front line, trying to patch up, all kinds of the holes there. And if you go and take a look at the tally, so to speak, for yesterday, it's on the 4th, you can see yourself the dynamics of the losses of Ukrainian armed forces, well, NATO proxy, essentially remains the same. It's about, 1,400 a day of the KIAs on their part, and this is, as I already stated, by the time it will be all said and done, probably the number of the KIAs on the Ukrainian side, without the tens of thousands which have been confirmed now of all those volunteers, will reach to 0.2 to 0.5 million people killed and missing in action. And this is then you multiply it by 2, which gives you 5 million of the PTSD, wounded, maimed and completely taken out of the normal civilian life. So add this, 5 plus 2, 7.5 million casualties. Well, hello, my friends. We're looking at the levels now approaching that of the World War I. And this was the war crime, and this was the war planning done by NATO. This tells you everything you need to know about their so-called professional level. Pardon me. So, what do we have? If we go to Konstantinivka today, you can see yourself what is happening now. And again, this is the scheme. It's yesterday, actually. And do not forget, those maps, they lag. They lag by about 72, sometimes 96 hours, and from the real situation on the ground. And again, night potty here is the, Russian humorously showing the counter-attack, so to speak, of the Ukrainian forces, which end up in the cauldron and annihilation. And here it is. They were trying to stave off Russian wave, towards Konstantinivka, which Russians are now in the, essentially in Konstantinivka. And the red lines which I show you are the things which Russians will continue to do. They're evening the front line. And this is the broad front strategy, essentially. And yeah, Russians are, assaulting whatever is left of the armed forces of Ukraine along the whole length of the front. And as has been understood from the statements of Mr. Gerasimov, the autumn will be offensive operations primarily. And so we can go to our good friend Marat Khairulin and Colonel Popov. And this is the southern segment, or operational, if you wish, southern part of the Donetsk operational axis. And as you can see yourself, everything is active. Absolutely just moving to the west. And this is from yesterday, again, as you can see yourself. So, and by the time it's all, said and done, what do we have? Well, we have this situation that United States, for some reason, actually decides to go and do this. Oh yeah, U.S. to cut, it's Financial Times. U.S. to cut some security funds for European countries bordering Russia. Move comes as Washington pushes NATO allies to pay more towards their own defense. Well, it's a very interesting situation, and let me put something for you which I do not necessarily completely agree with this, but Mr. Dmitriev, Russia's the chairman of the Russia's Strategic Investment Fund, which, by the way, performed extremely well. But also he is not really top government official, but he was used because of his knowledge, so to speak, and acquaintance with Mr. Witkov by Vladimir Putin and his administration as the point man. And so Mr. Dmitriev, since then, because he was so instrumental in maintaining the contacts with Mr. Witkov and American side in terms of those negotiations, including on the economic issues, you can see yourself what Mr. Dmitriev, Kirill Dmitriev posted on his X. You can say, what the hell is this? Yeah, I mean, is this a plan? It has been actually reported by TASS news agency. So here's Kirill Dmitriev. Is this the new configuration of the world? I've been on record that United States remains the great power. It's not hyperpower, it is superpower, but it's one of those, other superpowers, some great powers of the world which are emerging. And yeah, if United States wants to take the place, sure. The Europe, however, is done. And that is basically good representation of what is happening in terms of the broader geopolitics. And obviously Europeans are being in panic. What do you expect? Of course they should be, because the Europe is being cut out of this world, so to speak, new configuration, if you wish. I mean, it's not fully complete, but it's already here. We live within it. And so we have this bizarre, obviously, Mr. Trump. I don't know why he does this, but Okay, he goes out on his Truth Social and laments again after India told basically United States today again to go and pounce and that India will continue to buy Russian energy, of course. And so Mr. Trump is lamenting, looks like we've lost India and Russia to deepest, darkest China. May they have a long and prosperous future together. Actually, yes, Mr. Trump, this is a very good wish, and as Mr. Dmitryev's, I don't know where he got his this cartoon, but yeah, sure, United States is welcome actually to join in. That's the whole point. I mean, that's the privilege which is afforded to great powers. And I'm sorry, guys, this is the way it is. This is how the world works and will continue to work. Because the great guys, especially big guys, I mean, they live in a different dimension. They bear different responsibilities. They produce different things. The rest of the world, obviously, they are free to choose. They are free to choose their own path, but they will always be understandably deferring to those great powers. It's inevitable. It's basic physics. Forget about geopolitics. It's physics, It's the, gravity, this Newtonian laws, so what have you. And that's what it is. And so what we have now because of that, suddenly Vladimir Putin speaking again at Far Eastern Economic Forum. Here is the hint why I constantly talk about Arctic, Alaska, and all that thing. And look at this. Here it is, Vladivostok. It's today. And Vladimir Putin speaking at, we have good proposal for working with companies of United States in Alaska. Moreover, there are resources there, and remember, I showed you those resources, gigantic actually resources, especially in Arctic, which have to be developed. And moreover, there are resources, and we have technologies for gas production and liquefaction, which are much more effective than those that our American partners have, Putin said at the plenary session of the Far Eastern Economic Forum. This forum has been held in Vladivostok, and you remember the map, right? You remember this map. And this is also what I've been speaking about non-stop. Why it is better than American liquefaction? Well, simple as that. First, you need icebreakers. You need powerful icebreakers, which you don't have. The United States don't have it. So, but the second one, Russians have those advanced technologies of the domestic origin, which are actually for Arctic. And here is the trick. Here's the technology. Here's real high tech. You need to liquefy gas. You need to maintain it at minus 162 degrees Celsius. That's a low temperatures. Well, guess what? United States liquefies gas, but it liquefies gas in the weather conditions which are 20 degrees Celsius, something like 72 degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit, and above. That obviously imposes its own limitations. But when you liquefy the gas at minus 20 degrees Celsius, or let's say roughly minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit, suddenly you have a less strict demand, still strict, but you have the less strict demand to do this liquefaction. What you need to, of course, you need the infrastructure, and Russians have no equals in the world in building this infrastructure. And I demonstrated to you the port of Sabeta and what a gigantic complex which exists there. And Russians can do it in Alaska together with American companies. And guess what? They will be able to unplug this enormous wealth which is there. Okay, so Mr. Trump suddenly says he wishes everybody, good existence, good luck, and things of this nature. Sure. As I already stated, United States was always kinder, and Russians were always open for United States to change its ways and come and talk and do the business. But what can I say? So we'll see where it is all going, but something tells me that it is going somewhere. Why? I don't know. I mean, just call it a hunch, okay? So, and but yes, we need to keep in mind that classic Trump administration, which is of course the bunch of the contradicting each other forces, bunch of the neocons, bunch of the Israeli firsters, and people like Marco Rubio or Mr. Radcliffe, who are, well, when we talk about Russophobia is the fear of Russians. No, they don't just fear, they hate Russian gods. So they are active people. So, but what can I say? I mean, it's up to Mr. Trump to decide what is going to be, and something is happening. Who knows what? And then we come to this issue. And that's the other issue. What you see here, actually, this is the event which many people may not even recognize as an important, but it is a colossal in its importance. It is a Sukhoi Superjet. You see, it's unpainted and it takes the test flight. You know what is important about it? This Sukhoi Superjet is fully Russian, and it is serial production superjet. Russians are serially beginning to produce serially production of the superjets with the PD-8 engines, all Russian avionics, of Russian APUs and things like that. This is the serial aircraft. It's gonna take another some months to fully ramp it up and complete all those tests, and as usually it happens in any kind of the serious manufacturing process. But there you go. That's the serial production. That's how it's gonna look like. Eventually, it's gonna be painted, and whatever the airline will buy it. I mean, I know Aeroflot is really ready. There are a bunch of other Russian companies which are ready to buy, and the first 26 hulls are already on the assembly line. There you go. So simple as that. Now, why this is important? Here is what I want to get to. This people who, you have to understand. People write me, send me messages all the time that, Andrei, can you go and kick the butt of some, nobody who talks about military and geopolitics, and yeah, you look at the backgrounds of those nobodies, they're indeed nobodies. And especially for some reason, those people, especially from some kind of the really bizarre backgrounds, they decide that they can comment on the issues of the military. I don't know. I mean, I understand, but I understand their emotion and, intentions, if you wish. But there are many of those. 99% of the so-called experts out there on the YouTube or in print are not experts at all. They are amateurs who know how to use all those, hot button issues and, what those words which are important, buzzwords, and that's the only way they can keep themselves, whatever, for monetary gain, obviously, and maybe sometimes for just the sheer ambition. But here what I want to stress, and going back to, if you wish, professional description of things, and I posted it in my blog, and I want to point out this news, which have been heralded by, oh my God, it's a big deal. In reality, it's not. It's really nothing special, and I will explain why. Here it is. This is from Business Insider, and they talk about another NATO's northern flank is getting new warships built to hunt Russian submarines. Okay, fine, yeah. Anti-submarine warfare remains a critical combat task of any fleet in the world, and yes, sure, absolutely. And so they talk about that Norway just struck a major 13.5 billion deal with the UK to acquire new Type 26 frigates. And the frigates specialize in anti-submarine warfare, a key operation in the North Atlantic. And yeah, it's key operation. The problem is it cannot be performed anymore. I will explain why. As NATO officials said, the warship will give Norway and the alliance a major defense boost. No, they will not. But still, NATO ally Norway is buying advanced warships from UK in its biggest defense deal ever. Some people say already that Norway, being a rich country, relatively rich by European standards, it's actually sends money to UK to support its shipbuilding industry, which might be the case. Well, I agree entirely, considering the pathetic and pitiful state of the United Kingdom's economy. So, and they say, as I already stated, NATO officials say the move will sharply strengthen its ability to hunt enemy submarines in the North Atlantic. What is the Type 26? Okay, here is, for example, HMS Glasgow. This is the first hull which have been produced so far, and it's as you can see yourself, it's frigate, all right. It has the around 7,000 tons of displacement, and yeah, keep in mind on its mast. Keep your attention on its mast. I will explain later. So, but yeah, it's a relatively good-looking ship, you know. So British can produce those, and let's take a look at what it's designed for, and. Here it is. Here is the explanation of what Type 26 frigate is. And if you go and look at the Type 6 frigate, you begin to take a look at how Navy Lookout is British, website. They are essentially independent Royal Navy news and analysis. They are credible. And so, as you can see yourself, this is the scheme of this Type 26, which there's supposed to be actually 8 of them. There's only one hull so far. And as you can see yourself, in terms of weapons, apart from the standard, radar, sonar, all kinds of, and anti-submarine warfare helicopters and UAVs. We have we have 24 cell Mk-41 strike lengths vertical launch systems. Obviously it's an American one. Then you can load pretty much anything in there what NATO has, and then they have 24 cell bow 24 cell Sea Scepter vertical launch systems and 24 cell Sea Scepter vertical launch systems behind the stack. So what it is, but first, what are they capable of doing? Well, they probably have a decent anti-submarine warfare suit, but look at this. This is where it all comes to a head, if you wish, to understand why these are obsolete ships. And the concept of it is absolutely obsolete. For starters, if you go into the modern naval combat, you have to have a good strike capability. And not just air defense capability, of which we'll speak shortly. At the time of writing, only the missile delivered by Anglo-French future cruise and anti-ship weapon, you see, strike weapon, you have to have strike weapon, program is certain to be carried by T-26 and its Type 26 Mark 41 cells. This project, now referred to by Royal Navy as the Future Offensive Surface Weapon, good lord, I mean, can they call it just some kind of missile, will provide a supersonic, possibly hypersonic, heavyweight land attack and anti-ship missile. Yeah, it's not, and this is of course such a wishful thinking. However, officially the planning assumption for service entry of whatever future whatever attack thing will be 2028, with line with the HMS Glasgow's IOC, although there is some skepticism that MBDA, which is the contractor, can deliver such a complex weapon in that time frame. So this supersonic and possibly hypersonic thing is of course complete baloney. It's a wishful thinking, and let me explain. United Kingdom doesn't have the same as goes for France. NATO doesn't have hypersonic, forget about even the supersonic anti-shipping missile. All of those missiles are subsonic, such as, for example, naval attack, strike, whatever, missile, by Kronberg, whatever the name of this Norwegian thing. And this is pathetic, really. And let me explain to you why you immediately have the issue with, the strike function, without which you just don't go to sea anymore. Well, as you can see yourself, there are, well, what can I say? Yeah, about hypersonic. Elusive hypersonic arms need Western teamwork, NATO researcher says. You see, it was last year. Hypersonic weapons are likely still decades away from fielding. Yeah, but they say that somehow MBDA can really deliver this system. No, they can't. And so, the requisite research is best carried out collaboratively among Western nations. According to Kirsten Huber, Executive Officer for Applied Vehicle Technology at NATO Science and Technology Organization. Okay, this is not some kind of the military blogger. This is the guy who actually directly oversees those developments. And he says, I would think it needed another 20 years. Huber told Defense News on the sidelines of around whatever the round table in terms of the if NATO can get hypersonic technology. It can't. 20 years? Yeah, probably more. Can they even get the supersonic? They don't have supersonic. Everything they have is the good old Harpoon or something similar to it, which is subsonic Mach 0.85 anti-shipping missile. They're still dangerous, but this is obsolete weapon in the modern combat environment. And then we're obviously going to take a look at the air defense of the Type 26. You see, this is Sea Scepter. Oh yeah, it looks, they call it mushroom forest or whatever the hell, mushroom farm. These are, which is bizarre, I mean, these are proprietary things for the, this Mach 3 up to 100 kilometers, actually less than that, air defense missile. Yeah, it has the active radar, basically homing device. But if you think that it can operate within the modern combat environment against the supersonic and other, let alone hypersonic targets, yeah, I have a bridge to sell you. And that automatically, with this type of the air defense, which is rather very timid, tells you everything you need to know. And I will show you something. Remember this? Remember 2 years ago? Oh my God, Israel's new hypersonic defense system defies Russia and Iran's impossible. Yeah, we know how it all happened, right? And Iran was using actually pretty much standard ballistic missiles. And Israel is building the world's first air defense system dedicated to shooting down hypersonic missiles in a major challenge to Russia and Iran. Well, Israel is not a challenge to Russia. Russia can squeeze Israel like in 20 minutes and it will cease to exist, with or without whatever those defenses. But it didn't age that well, right? So, and this is everything what we know about air defense systems of the combined West and NATO. And they are not designed to fight modern weapons. So in this case, whatever this Type 26 anti-submarine warfare, design, which fine, I mean, yeah, you have to do the anti-submarine warfare operations constantly. If they think that they can find Yasin class submarine, again, let me remind you, this is again showing you the scale of things. You know this this drawing now. This is what Yasin looks like, the first fat red circle. This is the range of the standard basically load of the 3M22 Zircon. In the white arrow, it is the actually Onyx missiles, which are 1,000 kilometers actually range. And yeah, the newest versions of the Zircon, they are obviously just shooting at 2,500 kilometers. So yeah, if they want to conduct the anti-submarine warfare search under these conditions, well, the only thing I can tell you that this type of the ships, well, yeah, it's a decent, general purpose ship, has been conceived in 1998. Under the height and this hype and of the the Gulf War and whatever, so it's an obsolete concept. You go out to sea, you have to have state-of-the-art air defense, and this is where we're coming back to this mast, of this Type 26. There is a lot of lament in all kinds of the comments there that oh my God, it has just regular rotational. Rotation, revolving array, radar, and oh my God, it's nothing like active phase array type systems such as Spy 1D or whatever, Spy 6 nowadays they call it. What we usually see on the types of the even the more advanced frigates, and if you take a look at Gorshkov class, and this is what's circled around you, these are active phase array antennas. They're cover 360 degrees. There are 4 of them around this mast, and they are the state-of-the-art parliament air defense and battle management system, and which obviously is tied together to the another state-of-the-art reduced air defense system known today as S-350 at the in its ground iteration, which basically proved itself beyond, exemplary. It's just outstanding air defense system against all kinds of targets. And so, yeah, and they now lament that this frigate, this Type 26 thing, as you can see yourself, there is a Canadian iteration of it, but this Canadian iteration with the active phased array antennas. But here it is. It's, yeah, there's nothing there, really. This is just a regular mast, and what can I say? They continue to produce the obsolete weapon systems. And in the real war, God forbids, they will not be able to conduct anti-submarine warfare search with their so-called air defense and their ability to be situationally aware and developing targeting and, having their surveillance of the environment. These are 1990s frigates, for crying out loud, and they are nothing more than prestigious fat targets for any kind of the modern cruise missiles, which wouldn't allow them to even enter the area of search, not to speak of course, even surviving, let alone surviving in their naval bases. And this is what happens. And this is why I'm constantly on record when I say that NATO lost the arms race by a mile. And I'm talking about NATO, including the United States. And what's left? Well, probably Norway is basically, as many people suggested, including on my forums, in my blog, that it is money transfer to support dying out United Kingdom British industry. Probably the case. What do you do? Then you provide, you build obsolete, militarily, insignificant bunch of ships, which are very expensive. Evidently, one of the houses, 1.1 billion British pounds. Good Lord. Or how they say it in Britain, 1.1 billion quid. So, guys, this is not good. And this is the indication of the lost race. Well, this is what I wanted to tell you today, guys. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on the Patreon or buy me a coffee too. What can I say? Have a nice rest of just your weekend. It's coming. And I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.